Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, psych, he ain't back. No, he ain't back. Ladies and gentlemen, that channel is not fully but partially retired. We're going to go to this channel. Just understand that. Same thing. No, you guys don't understand. That site ain't up either. We have to switch to it. You see what I'm saying? Switch. There'll never be another. Anyway, we're gonna have music in my background because my girl Stephanie, she ain't gonna be that loud, ladies and gentlemen. But like I told you all, we got a conversation to talk about. I tried to do this video. I want you all to pay attention. Twice yesterday. I've been trying to do it since this morning when I got up at 6 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you all to know I'm too stubborn not to do it. The information I'm about to give you all is the information they don't want y'all to have. I am very grateful to have started back the RedressRight channel. Why? As you can see, not a lot of people know about it. So hopefully we can keep the undesirables away from this channel. They were here before. They were here before. But hopefully they've forgotten or moved past. They're too busy watching the videos of the people telling you, oh, you can use a 1099A to buy a car. Come on, use a 1099A right now. Buy a car. Get a car, a free car. If everybody and their grandmother could use a 1099A to buy a car, shouldn't they all have already been doing it? Look at all the people who've been trying. And now go, those videos were out 3 months ago. Go and watch the videos again. And look at all the comments. Those who left the comments open, or look to see if the people are still talking about it. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to pay attention because you're not going to be getting those pipe dream stories here. You know that about me. I'm not going to sell you no story. I'm going to show you what the law says, and I'm going to give you ideas, options, possibilities of how you can use that law to your advantage. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to tell you this. All these people who are claiming that they've had success and they're showing the inside of their home, well, take a look. If they've had the success they're talking about, well, a lot of people I see buy new. They're not like me. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never bought new. I don't care for new. But you're not going to hear them saying that because when they talk, they're going to be talking materialism. Oh, yes, they will. She's saying they will never do it, but I'm saying yes, they will. Okay? Yes, they will. That's all they will do, ladies and gentlemen. They materialistic. That's why all they're doing is talking about you going out there and getting something, but you don't see what they've gone out there and got. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want y'all to know I'm not talking about anyone in particular because that's not what I do. I'm not talking about anyone in particular because, again, that's not what I do. What I'm saying is if somebody's offering you a pipe dream because they want more views, then you should be careful. Now, the trucking people, the truck bullies, the bulliers of trucking, I have a lot of respect for the young man who does those videos because he's straightforward with you. He tells you what he's tried and what he hasn't tried. He gives you your option. He even brings people onto his channel to let you hear what they have to say. He tells you, hey, this is whom we're working with. They're willing to help us. I cannot have anything but respect for such a person. I don't know the man. I've never met him. I did leave a comment to him one day, and he actually thanked me for the comment. He did not get the pride attitude. He just simply said thank you. Just as simple. Look, All I told them is 12 USC 95 has been omitted and moved to Title 50, Section 4305. Congress did that a long time ago. Why? They didn't get rid of anything. They just moved it in the title. But I've already told all of you, stop going by the title. The title is the only thing that's positive law. The code itself is not positive law, only the title. Why? Because when they did the title, they copied it exactly. I know, isn't it a shame, Evelyn? Okay, y'all, Evelyn's saying it's a shame. It's a shame that they would move it to another part of the code. Why did they move it? Because too many of you guys were reading it and seeing how you could benefit from it. All right, we're not going to talk about Title 50, 4305 directly. We're going to talk about it indirectly because we're going to talk about the original statute from where it came. You guys are ready? All right, we got our little warm-up going. 6 minutes worth of a warm-up. Hey, let's go ahead. I want all of you to know that the link for this page and the other 2 pages I'm going to go to will be underneath this video. I want y'all to realize that in advance. Before we even get started, I want y'all to realize that the link for those 2 pages will be in the description section. Okay, so you can get there because you're going to need to go there. Now, what I want you guys to do, because I've talked about it before, but now it's time to give you guys a full history. We're going to try to keep this not too long, but some of you need this information. So what I want to do is I want to ask for you, please, to take this particular video, download it. Okay? Use SnapTube. Use a VPN and use SnapTube and you can download it. What I want you to do, because it's my video. YouTube doesn't own my videos. I do. Now the thing about it, because I play music in the background, I can't monetize it. But it's still my property. Well, when you use YouTube, you're... No, I'm not giving anything to YouTube. I haven't made that agreement with them. I am placing it out there in the public, yes. That's why what I say in the public, you can have it as public domain. I don't care. But what I'm trying to say is the information is not the property of anyone. You want to take it and misuse it, knock yourself out. I don't care. But what I'm suggesting is there are people who listen to my videos while they are working, while they're on their way to work, while they're at home cleaning up. I do the same thing. I got to be honest. I do go back and listen to some of my videos. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I do that, as I've been saying since 2009 when I started doing this, there are a lot of things I've talked about before that I've forgotten. Oh, especially about that change of address video. Lord have mercy, there was so much information in that video that people are still benefiting from. Many people have actually gotten their debts wiped away by using that change of address stupid video information. Well, I haven't done it, but I'm about to do it because I need to do it because I need to take care of some things. You know what I'm saying? And you want to download the old change of address card. You don't want to use the current one because the current one, they've changed some things in it, changed some language. All right, let's move on if we shall. Sorry, I'm distracted, ladies and gentlemen. I'm distracted because of one thing, not because of anything y'all did, okay? But because, like I said, I tried to do this video twice yesterday, and one time the computer I used had a critical error. Not just any error, the blue screen error. Well, I've already fixed the computer for the stupid blue screen error to prevent that from happening, and it happened anyway. Okay, we're going to go to page 79. Now, I need you guys to pay attention to the pages I'm going to, 79 and 83. I really do want all of you to understand. Pay attention. Page 79 and 83. That's your Banking Act. You need to read from page 79 to 83 at your leisure. But focus on the paragraphs I'm about to tell you and suggest to you to focus on. Because, you know, people like to get stupid when you start telling people what to do. So I'm going to tell y'all what to do. Pay attention. The first provision of the bill validates and maintains the authority exercised by the president. Now look, ladies and gentlemen, remember, I had never read this junk before, but I've been telling you for years. Congress, the president came up with some junk, and Congress seconded that emotion. Ladies and gentlemen, that was 2/3 majority of the federal government. The Supreme Court had no authority to overturn it because you have two branches of government against one. That's a 2/3 majority. There was nothing in the Constitution to prevent that. Pay attention. This was by design. There was nothing in the Constitution to prevent that. So notice what they said. The first provision of the bill validates and maintains the authority exercised by the President of the United States. Hold on now. They're saying we second that emotion. Here. You guys have seen that. We're in a parliamentary style government. That's what we have. We have a Senate. We have a parliamentary style government. It's a provisional government because Congress had been slowly eroding the rights of the people from the foundation of the Constitution. Why? Because the Constitution never gave them any authority. Go back and look at the First Amendment through the 10th Amendment. It was a limitation or an injunctive government. It was a permanent injunction. Go back and look at the First Amendment to the 10th Amendment. There were nothing but restrictions on government, not restrictions on the people. It was restrictions on government, what they could not do. Go back and look at that wonderful Article 1, Section 8. Go back and look at Article 1 where it limited the jurisdiction of Congress. It limited the power of the Congress. Well, how could Congress give the president extraordinary powers when they didn't have it themselves? It was a limited government. So once you all understand that, ladies and gentlemen, we can move forward. It says, in the proclamation relating to the banks of the nation issued by the president on March 6, 1933, there was only one proclamation issued by the president on March 6, 1933, and that was Presidential Proclamation 2039. Go and do your research. This is what they're talking about, and they vouched for that proclamation. Remember, the proclamation, oh, by the way, I just want y'all to understand, the music in the background won't be distracting me because some of the music is some of that stuff that, you know, we've been listening to for centuries, and it got that little, man, that's my song. Ladies and gentlemen, Presidential Proclamation 2039 on March 6, 1933. The president didn't have the authority over the people. But notice what they did. Because the president didn't write that proclamation. That proclamation was written by the banks who gave it to the Treasury, who ordered them to give it to the president. Okay? It was given to Hoover. Hoover was a lame duck. He had just been voted out of office. But the president didn't come into office, the new president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Delano? Okay, anyway, didn't come into office until March 3rd. That's when he was inaugurated. Wasn't January 20th like it is now. There was a long period of time between when the president left office and the president came into office. And thus started the tradition of the president leaving a letter for his incumbent successor. The letter he left, Hoover, for Roosevelt, the incumbent, was, hey, homie, there's an emergency. And he's like, what do you mean an emergency? Well, the bankers came to the Treasury, and then the Treasury came to me. Said that because of this national emergency, you know, the one that started in 1929, beginning of my presidency, yeah, them umpteen years ago. Well, they're saying that that emergency still exists today. And that emergency is so dire. We've been living in this emergency for going on 4 years. But because the emergency was so dire, Lord have mercy, we need to do something extraordinary now. No, it's not something I could have done 4 years ago or 2 years ago, even 3 years ago. I couldn't even do it 6 months ago. Had to be now. And because it had to be now, I'm leaving this letter for you. What are you talking about? Why couldn't I do it? Man, because I didn't want to. Man, this is bull. Why would I do something like this? Oh, no. See, what they told me when I was leaving office, that I had to. That I had no choice. Oh, yeah, my children, my wife, my relatives, everybody be dead. Then they were going to kill me last. Yeah, that's what because they said that they put me in office, and then they said they needed me to give it to the person they put in office after me, which is you. Told them, why didn't you just keep me in office? They said, because I was a lame duck. Said, quack, quack. They said, you're just lame. You're not going to be here no more. So they told me, be on about my business, take care of what they need me to take care of, and move on out of the way. So I'm leaving this for you, and I'm getting out of here, okay? Yeah, I don't want to be given no polio and put in a wheelchair, and then after they done with me, I get put to death, and be like they said I had a heart attack or something. Now, I don't want that to happen to me. So you don't want that to happen to you either, so you better listen to these okay? And thus, the passing of the torch, handing of the baton to the next person coming into office. Ladies and gentlemen, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt came into office, the very first thing he did was he ordered Congress in a special session to meet. For what? To discuss the proclamation. The proclamation written by the banks. And when they came to discuss that proclamation, what did they do? They told him to order Congress to meet on the 9th. Congress, in an emergency session, met on the 9th. I promise you're going to learn something, so just pay attention. If you claim you already knew most of this stuff, don't worry about it. I'm talking to the people who didn't know what went on. And then we're going to talk about some things that most of you didn't know because it was hidden in these records. So now the proclamation is written. Notice what it says about the Trading with the Enemy Act. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Trading with the Enemy Act, the October 6, 1917 Act. You're going to see that referred to a lot in presidential documents. You'll see. It says Section 2 confers upon the President the powers bestowed under the Act of October 6, 1917, regardless of whether or not the country is involved in war. You see, before it was a War Powers Act. It only gave him power when in war. But now, ain't in nobody's war. Lord have mercy, ain't in nobody's war. Now the president can just take these powers anytime he wanted to. Pay attention. These were war powers. But now it says that the president can do it regardless whether or not we're in war or not. Who gave them the authority to do that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want y'all to pay attention to. We're going to go down to the page 79. Remember, with the very first two things talked about on page 79. Then we're going to read the last two things talked about on page 79. And then on the top of the right-hand corner, we're going to read the first thing. So that's 5 paragraphs we're going to read. Now, pay attention. We, Congress, get out of here. Didn't ask for y'all. Sorry, I got to wait for it to go away because it don't like me. It knows that we're going to just pull it down. There you go. Now stay up there if you want to. By the way, for those of you who need the PDF, it's going to be under here, but it's GPO-CRECB-1933-PT1-V as in Victor 77-3.pdf. Now, we have provided a simpler and broader, look, simpler and broader. We made it so simple that even a caveman could understand it. That's the broadness, even a caveman. We have provided a simpler and broader authority for loans by the Federal Reserve Bank. Pay attention to these two words. Upon securities and collaterals not eligible under the general authority of the Federal Reserve Act. Now, if you go back and look at the Banking Act of 1917, between 1919 and 1917, it was an amendment to the Federal Reserve Act. Oh, it was called the Trading with the Enemy Act. That was a Federal Reserve Act amendment, ladies and gentlemen. The Trading with the Enemy Act was a Federal Reserve Act amendment. Don't even think about it any other way, because that's exactly what they just told you. They were amending the Federal Reserve Act, and I guarantee you, if you pay attention to the Federal Reserve Act, you don't have to go do this. Don't get distracted. But I guarantee you it deals with war to begin with, because it deals with economies. The economy of the United States and the economy of a foreign nation. It deals with the monetary system. But don't worry about it. We're not focused on that. You just need to understand that this deals with the authority for the Federal Reserve banks to make loans to people. Let me tell you how simple loans are. Would you like to know how simple loans are to the Federal Reserve? I mean, from the Federal Reserve, to the Federal Reserve, and from the Federal Reserve, because we're going to talk about both. Pay attention. This provision extended for the period of 1 year with powers conferred upon the president to extend the operation for an additional year. Huh? Really? What are they extending? Hold on now. Watch this. What authority was conferred upon the president? To make everybody bankers? Banking holiday? But hold on. Notice what they have done. See, we have provided a simpler and broader authority. This provision extended what provision? Oh, well, the authority for loans for the Federal Reserve Bank upon securities and collaterals eligible under the general authority of the Federal Reserve Act. So it says this provision that they're talking about now extended the period for another year, additional year. Now hold on. Let's see where we went beyond that year. Let's see if that year was an actual year or was for the extent of the proclamation. Hold on now, y'all don't understand? The proclamation is still ongoing. The proclamation was only supposed to be for 4 days. The provisions were only supposed to be temporary until we were no longer in the emergency. We're going to find out as in 1973 we're still in the emergency. But don't worry about it. Hold on. We have provided that any direct obligations, what are direct obligations of the United States, or, pay attention, any notes, not just Federal Reserve notes, any notes, not just promissory notes, any notes. What about the note of A, B, C, flat? Anybody have those notes? Not those notes. Oh, monetary notes. Pay attention, because it says securities. Oh, no, it hasn't said securities yet. Pay attention. Any notes, drafts, any bill of exchange, any drafts, any bill of exchange, any banker's acceptance acquired by the Federal Reserve banks. That's why they don't return them to you. Shh, don't tell nobody. May be deposited with the treasurer, 12 USC 411, may be deposited with the treasurer, 12 USC 411, of the United States, and or with the Federal Reserve agents, Federal Reserve banks are Federal Reserve agents, and upon these securities, what securities? Notes, drafts, bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances are all securities. You don't have to register these securities. These are securities automatically because they're government obligations. Shh, don't tell nobody. Ladies and gentlemen, these securities, the Federal Reserve bank notes, may be issued. Now, hold on. When they receive those securities, the Treasury issues them more Federal Reserve bank notes. Ain't that interesting? Remember, the Treasury is the one who issues the Federal Reserve notes. Now, this says Federal Reserve bank notes. Yes, because Federal Reserve notes are emergency script. The banks only use Federal Reserve notes between themselves. You might want to say that's that so-called real money within the banking system that the banking system uses. It is not the lawful money that the Treasury talks about. But let's keep going. Now, in case of deposits, deposits of this stuff right here, pay attention. Notes, drafts, bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances, deposits of these things. Pay attention. In the case of deposits of obligations of the United States, direct obligations of the United States, okay, the bank notes may be for the entire amount of such securities. These are all securities. I've been trying to get you all to understand, but nobody pays attention to me, that you have securities and you don't even realize it. We're gonna talk about it in more detail in a minute. So you guys stay with me. Don't want that. I want to go up here. Let's see. Mr. Stiegel and Mr. May I? Ladies and gentlemen, in the case of deposits of notes, drafts, bills of exchange, and bankers' acceptances, Federal Reserve banks may issue Federal Reserve bank notes to the amount of 90% of the value of such securities. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nobody in the world who can deny that your drafts, your notes, your bills of exchange, and your Federal Reserve, bankers' acceptances are securities. Tells you right here. It doesn't hide it from you. Ladies and gentlemen, you have securities. Now remember, because of the other acts, they define what Congress intended for each of you. One house, one car, even one dog and a picket fence. That's it, necessities. Your securities are only good for necessities. So when you do a bill of exchange to your credit card company, you do a bill of exchange to your water company, you do a bill of exchange to your electric company or to the other utility companies, remember, no company owns the electricity. Not a single one of them. They can't, because electricity is as natural as you can be natural. They do not own the water. They never can. They did not patent the water and they never could. They do not own, ladies and gentlemen, natural gas. Now, because they add chemicals to the gasoline, they can patent the technology. That's what the whole Texaco company was all about, and the Exxon company is all about. Okay? But they do not own the minerals themselves. They cannot patent the minerals themselves. Not even if they altered the minerals can they patent it. Why? Because they are not the inventors of the original. And that's what's been happening. You all have been allowing them to say that they can patent things such as marijuana. They don't have the right to patent marijuana, nor can they take control of it. Ladies and gentlemen, marijuana is natural. Sorry, look, I'm not an advocate of marijuana. The God I serve speaks about smoking because it damages the body. So he doesn't condone it. What I am doing is the same thing the Supreme Court does. It highlights to you the facts as the laws of the United States are written. But God's law says no. The reason why they have made marijuana illegal is because they have these companies patented the genes of the marijuana plant. They are not allowed to do that. You cannot patent nature. Just like they've patented your genes by taking control, by saying they have ownership. We have a lot to talk about, not to talk about it today. Okay, we're going to continue with this. Ladies and gentlemen, you have securities. When you write a money order, when you write a promissory note, do your research on promissory notes. Ladies and gentlemen, start writing your promissory notes for your necessities. Don't be writing 10, 20, 100,000 of them, only for the necessities. Don't write them for more than the amount. Keep them for the amount. Then go and do your 1099-C and your 1099-A. Follow the rules. Wait a minute. Those can only be done for the creditor. We'll talk about that in a second, ladies and gentlemen. This provision affords a plan for constructive expansion of the currency of the country. To what amount? The amount will be limited by the demand and the exigency of the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, and of course by the requirements of the applying banks. What are the banks applying for? they're applying to the Treasury. Ladies and gentlemen, the banks are applying to the Treasury for more money. But hold on, we're going to talk about it in a minute. Okay? I will say to my friend on my right, that's where you get the right and the left, ladies and gentlemen, that there cannot be a greater expansion than the banks of the country demand for protection of their depositors and for the support of trade and commerce of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, again, they created an economy. These demands on bank deposits and bank credits. Wait, see, it says these demands, but what demands? Will the gentleman yield? I will yield. I understand the banks owning the United States bonds can send them to the Federal Reserve banks and have 90% of the cash returned. An individual or any state bank may do it, and to the amount of the face value of the bonds. That is where we have gone in liberalizing credit and expansion. Ladies and gentlemen, praise the Lord. Y'all don't get it, do y'all? Let me turn down the music for a second, if y'all don't mind. I have to, this is the four tops, and I have to turn them off for a second because I haven't read this far into the act. I've read just above this, but I want you all to understand what they're talking about so that you all can get what they're talking about. Congressman May says, I understand that the banks owning United States bonds can send them to the Federal Reserve Bank and have 90% of the cash returned. Ladies and gentlemen, wait, we got to go down here to the bottom. Got to start from the bottom in order to get back to the top. Pay attention. We have provided that any direct obligation of the United States, government bonds, and or any notes, bills of exchange, drafts, bankers' acceptances acquired by the Federal Reserve Bank may be deposited with the Treasury of the United States. You guys have been following the right process. You just haven't understood the process. So let me go ahead and explain it to you by letting these morons explain it to you. I understand that banks owning bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances, trade acceptances, all government obligations can send them to the Federal Reserve banks. So the small banks send them to the big banks and have 90% of the cash return. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys can do the same thing. Hold on, watch this. An individual or any state bank may do it. You guys can do the same thing. An individual or any state bank may do it. And to the amount of the face value of the bond or the bill of exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, the value has to be reasonable. You cannot do it for 20 million, 30 million, 100 million. You have to do it for the actual amount. That is where we have gone into liberalizing the credit and expansion. My friend, if you ask me if this is going to cure the situation in the United States, I do not say that it will cure all our ills. If you ask me if this is what I would do in an existing emergency, I answer you that it is not all I would do. It is not all that is going to be done. Yeah! Yeah! Sing it to me! Preach it, brother! Well, it says they applauded. So let's keep going. This is simply one step. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can do that one step, but you're going to have to quote this junk in order to get it accomplished. We are building upon wreck and ruin. It has taken 50 years to develop the great financial system of the United States, which is now prostrate and in ruin. Man, there's a prostrate. It's a cancer. We cannot build it in one day. In a day, sorry. We cannot rebuild it in 3 days. We cannot rebuild it tomorrow or next week. We can only do it step by step. Step by step. Heaven what? Can wait? is not reached in a single bound. That's right, I said reached, I did not say reached. It's a past tense statement, so it's reached in a single bound. But we build the ladder by which we rise from the lowly earth to the vaulted skies, and we mount to its summits round by round. Doesn't it sound like the mother is preaching? The step we take leads upward toward the light. We shall take this step today. We shall take another step tomorrow, and then again another and another. When are we going to stop stepping? Anyway, the people have summoned to their service a leader whose face is lifted towards the skies. Yes! Yeah, sing it, brother. Anyway, we follow that leadership today, and we shall follow that leadership until we stand again in the glorious sunlight of prosperity and happiness in this republic. Oh, they're applauding again. I reserve the balance of my time. Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here is McFadden, the hero of the day. McFadden, the only one of the day who had the heart and the gall to speak up against the stupidity that was taking place. Mr. Speaker, I yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts. Mr. McFadden had a partner, Mr. Lucy. Lucy says, it is of course out of the question, Mr. Speaker, that any man can grasp the full meaning of that bill by listening to its reading. Having had no limitations whatsoever beforehand, sorry, get on out of here. Ain't nobody talking to y'all. Sorry, y'all. We got people on calls and everything. Apologize for that. All right. Animation, whatever beforehand of what it contains. They're letting you know they did not get a chance to read it. It was read to them. They never saw the bill, ladies and gentlemen. I, too, desire to help the administration meet this crisis. Whenever it may be necessary, I will waive all opportunity of discussion. Perhaps it was necessary in this instance to keep us on the majority side who have some acquaintance with this subject in the dark until the bill was produced. Yeah, they could have given them the bill, ladies and gentlemen, 3 days ago, a year ago, several months ago, because the bill was already written, done and said, so we could stay 2 steps ahead. The L for the love that we live. You know what? I'm sorry, y'all. We're going to do that right there. That will take care of that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, and for those of you who are wondering, those are the people working on the tax credits. Okay? That's what they're talking about, you guys. All right? Got a lot of work this week and the week after, because things will start being mailing out and going out to everybody, because we have taken care of our documenting of our tax credits, because we can't assign the tax credits to none of you guys without taking care of our tax credits. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. Got to continue, if you guys don't mind. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps it was necessary in this instance for them to keep everybody in the dark. He says that there was intentional refraining from consultations with members of the House who now for many years have lived in these questions and who ought to know something about them. The majority leader have brought us this bill on which I myself am unable to advise my colleagues except to say that this is a case where judgment must be waived, where argument must be silenced, where we should take matters without criticism, lest we may do harm by delay. And he gets applause. Let me illustrate my embarrassment that comes from lack of information. There is in this bill a provision for preferred stocks of banks. Imagine my own situation, confronted by the fact that not 4 hours ago, I put into a box there a bill with provisions that for that very purpose, not having the slightest idea that there had been discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, what they're saying is there's a provision there that protects the banks. He's saying, well, what if I put in a bill that I put provisions in there to protect me, that I could benefit from it, and didn't let anybody see it? He says, I do not want to be impatient. I do not want to even seem in the slightest disturbed. But I do think, and I say to my friends, on the majority, that if they desire us to go along with these things, if they desire our sympathetic cooperation, we want to give it. Let the desired result be accomplished by ways that will not arouse in the breast of any man the thought that he has not had a fair show, the feeling that he has not had an opportunity to present his views and feelings, that he has no chance to pass criticism. Now we're going to go down to the bottom here because we started from the top. We're going to go with Mr. Stegall and Mr. McFadden's conversation. The provisions for the issuance of Federal Reserve banknotes, pay attention, the provision is for the issuance of Federal Reserve banknotes and not Federal Reserve notes. And the security backed of it is the obligation notes, draft, bills of exchange. Those are the securities for the Federal Reserve notes. That's why you give them to the Federal Reserve Bank, because it's a security for the Federal Reserve note. Pay attention. Bankers' acceptances outlined in section which the gentleman has referred. Mr. McFadden says, then the new circulation is for Federal Reserve banknotes and not Federal Reserve notes. Is that true? Mr. Stegall, so far as the provision in this section are concerned, yes. Mr. McFadden says, well, I would like to ask the gentleman on the right, in that connection, is there any gold reserve to be held as security for the backing of these Federal Reserve banknotes? Mr. Stegall says, the law provides 5% back to Federal Reserve banknotes, just as is maintained in the case of a national banknote. There have been issued a small amount of these notes. I cannot recall the exact figure. The gentleman is probably more familiar with it than I am. There is only a little of that currency outstanding. This contemplates a substantial addition to it. It is a liberalization of currency issue to take care of the banks in their efforts to respond to the demand of business and liability to their depositors. Mr. McFadden says the current press reports indicate there will be issued under the authority of some 2 million or more of the new currency and made available to the banks. Is that correct? Ladies and gentlemen, it was never supposed to be that great of an expansion of money, but look at, they've been doing trillions of dollars. Trillions, I tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, how in the world? What I want to do is read this paragraph right here so that we get to our current conversation. You guys mind? How the government can save at least $700 million annually and make banks safe. How they can save $700 million annually. I want you all to understand, we want to save the nation hundreds of billions of dollars by writing off our debts and using our securities. Federal Reserve banknotes? No, not our securities. We want to use notes, drafts, bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances, and trade acceptances. These are our securities. Congress has identified them as being our securities. Securities backed by the United States government. Why? Because they represent a mortgage on the homes of all of our properties and all of our homes. That's why we get to use those securities. They are government obligations, and because the government is allowing us to use those obligations, they have placed a mortgage or security on our properties. That's our exchange. For them using our properties, we get to use these government obligations, these paper instruments. Remember, that's what they did. Bills of exchange are fiat currency. Notes, drafts, bankers' acceptances, and trade acceptances are fiat currency of the United States. When you see them say coin or currency of the United States, that's what they're referring to. Let's prove this. Mr. Patman. Yes, Speaker. What do you have to say? Well, Mr. Speaker, Thursday, March 9th, Congress was convened in extraordinary session. It is the first session of the 73rd Congress. The President submitted a bill which was intended to assist in the opening of all the banks in the nation, although it was to the contrary to many of the principle that I had advocated for many years. It contained provisions that I did not approve and failed to go far enough in other ways. I yield and vote for the bill. Oh, excuse me, I yielded and voted for the bill. What the? It was an emergency measure and should have been passed immediately. The proposal embodied one feature that I have advocated for a long time, and that was the issuance of additional circulating medium, bills of exchange. The banks of the nation have inflated credit out of proportion to the amount of actual money. The result is that the banks have become indebted to the depositors to an extent of $45 billion and have in their vaults less than 1 million to pay it with. The new law will cause the printing presses of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing here in Washington to print more money and furnish it to the bank. One day, this week, this Bureau printed and delivered more than 30 million, running both day and night. Similar sums are now being printed and delivered daily. Now, here's the point that he makes. If the Republican Party had released itself from the clutches of Wall Street and expanded the currency immediately after the stock market crash in 1929, and within a year of after the crash, the people would have been saved from this awful money panic. Our president will doubtless make amendments or ask for us to make amendments to the new law when conditions are more normal and when it is better understood. Under the new law, the money is issued to the banks in return for government obligations, bills of exchange, draft notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances. The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation, and it will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people. This is the conversation they were having, ladies and gentlemen. So let's break it down. You don't mind, because we've done it several times. First of all, you need to understand that under the new law, the money is issued to the banks. What money? The money that is worth 100 cents on the dollar. Why? Because it is backed by the credit of the nation. Well, what do the people get out of it? Well, because the money will represent, no, it's not the money that represents, because see, what does the money represent? Let's go ahead. The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation. So the credit of the nation represents a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people of the nation, all the people in the nation. This is a protected class. All the people in the nation is people in the nation, not of the nation. This includes foreigners and so-called aliens and whomever. All the people in the nation. So all of you who believe that the United States does not want people coming over the border, you are mistaken. The more people, the more junk they get to issue and the more securities they get to produce. Let's continue, shall we? The money under the new law, the money under the new law, the money, pay attention to the money. What is it? Is issued to the bank in return for something backed by the credit of the nation. No. The money is issued to the banks in return for the credit of the nation. Well, what represents the credit of the nation? Mortgages on all the home of all the people. But the banks must accept bills of exchange, draft note, trade acceptance bank. It doesn't. Yes, it does. It says the money is issued to the bank in return for bills of exchange, draft notes, trade acceptances. They cannot get the money or use the money unless they accept in return these government obligations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the first question you ask in court, those of you who are being foreclosed on, excuse me, do you use Federal Reserve notes? Do you issue Federal Reserve notes? Do you acknowledge the existence of Federal Reserve notes? Just let them say yes to one of those three questions. Then, Your Honor, I move for an immediate dismissal, and I move that you hold them liable under law for contempt of court for bringing this unlawful action into this courtroom. They'll ask you, what are you talking about? Well, these morons had just admitted that they use Federal Reserve notes, that they recognize the value of Federal Reserve notes. Well, here is a quote from the United States Congress saying that if they use Federal Reserve notes, they have to accept bills of exchange, notes, drafts, bankers' acceptances, the traders' sector. They have no choice but to accept it. So if they have to accept it and they refuse to accept it under your Uniform Commercial Code, it operates as refusal of tender of payment. They have no claim and they have no standing in this courtroom, and you have no jurisdiction over their claim. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go back and listen to what I just said, many of you will be able to save your homes. But I'm not finished, because you need to understand, as long as they're using Federal Reserve notes, they must accept your bill of exchange in exchange for the Federal Reserve notes. Ladies and gentlemen, your bill of exchange is worth 100 cents on the dollar. Your bill of exchange is worth 100 cents on the dollar. That's why it has to be the exact amount. It is dollar for dollar. What, you didn't understand that's what they meant in June 5th, 1933 with HCR 192, that they were not referring to this junk here? This was March 9th. Of course they're saying the same thing. Your bill of exchange is worth 100 cents on the dollar, so it is dollar for dollar. Pay attention. That's why up above they talked about 90%, but that was a different scenario. That was a different deposit. Okay, go back and put it together, because they're telling you exactly what they were intending. This is your intentions of Congress. The court cannot go contrary to the intentions of Congress. The Supreme Court has already said this junk was legal. So they cannot go contrary to the intentions of Congress. So use this. Use this. I know I'm giving some of you a lot of ideas right now, but we're not finished. Your bills of exchange, your bankers' acceptances, your notes, your draft, your trade acceptances were all legal tender. Why? Because Congress said it was legal tender. What is legal tender? Go look at the definition. You'll see it says it's a medium of exchange. Well, hold on. The banks get the money in exchange or return for government obligations, and this is the paragraph you need. Just that simple. Now, hold on. That's why I could pay off a mortgage without spending a dime. That's why so many of you guys can use an hour style money order and get your junk taken care of. Okay? It's a bill of exchange. They understand that. But I'm about to give you something else where you don't even have to write an hour style money order. I'm going to give you something else that you can use that Congress has said that you have 100% right to use it. Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember that HCR 192? It says for the uniform or to uniform the value of the currency of the United States, the coins and currencies, to uniform their value, to make them all equal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if somebody claims you owe a debt, remember, nobody can demand payment for a debt in the United States, period, ever. You cannot demand payment for a debt from the banks. They cannot demand payment for a debt from you. It's illegal. It's against public policy. Go back and look at it. It says nobody can demand payment for a debt. That's why you get to discharge it and get the credit from the government. That's why the credit is automatic. Tax credits are automatic. We're not talking about those special tax credits, like child tax credits and all that stuff. We're not talking about that junk. We're talking about the actual tax credit for debt forgiveness. The tax credits associated with debt forgiveness is automatic, ladies and gentlemen. It happens automatic when you deem the debt to be worthless and uncollectible. Go back and look at IRS tax topic 431, 435, IRS tax topic. Go back and read it and look at how it says that as long as it's worthless and uncollectible, and you can prove that there was a prior agreement for them to pay, or a prior agreement and a debt resulted thereafter, then that's all you need. That's what AmeriLegion does for you. It takes all of your documentation, organizes it for you, and puts it in one little nice little tiny bow. But then they also tender payment. Hold on. So you're going to have proof that you paid for it twice. But remember, even if you paid for it twice, you don't get twice the amount. Remember, it's dollar for dollar. You only get the amount that is being discharged. Okay? That's why you got to have something showing the dollar amount. So a bill will do. Okay? It's dollar for dollar, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all need to pay attention. Dollar for dollar only. Okay? All right, let's continue, shall we? We get the fact that it represents a mortgage. This is where your power is. They can't use the money without leveraging your property. And if they don't acknowledge leveraging your property, then this is what you do. I want you to pay attention to this. You need to pay attention to this paragraph here. Well, we'll do this right here because I haven't read this part before. And I promise you this part is going to be important for us. The banks use part of it as the base to issue considerable money, which they loan to their customers. And the remainder, which was most of it, was sold back to England by the bankers. This was talking about the England system. Okay? Notice what they do here in America, because that's what they're doing, the conquest. The conquest. Okay? The gold that is given up by the people in the present crisis should be delivered to the government. Remember, the gold is given up by the people. The people are not surrendering it under threat of violence. The people are not being forced to relinquish their property. The people are giving it up. Pay attention, it's a donation. Look at this. The bank, it says the gold that is given up by the people in the present crisis, they're doing that to help government, should be delivered to the government. It should be used to issue additional money upon which the people will not have to pay any interest while it is in circulation. Well, Federal Reserve notes are in circulation. The people are not supposed to be paying interest. No, we're not going to talk about the interest part right now. We're going to talk about the gold that is given up. They don't want to accept your bill of exchange and give me back my gold. That's your claim. You have to bring a valid claim in court. Well, you take this paragraph in the court saying, wait a minute, they're using the money. Hold on, pay attention, y'all. The paragraphs go together. They're using the money. The money is given to the banks in exchange for government obligation. So if they're going to use the money, it's because you gave up the gold to the government, which made your bill of exchange a government obligation, which allowed them to have the money in the first place. Well, if you're not going to accept my bill of exchange, my government obligation, to give me back my gold, just that simple. Well, you have to show, well, you're using the money, aren't you? Well, you can't use the money unless it was backed by the gold given up by the people. Pay attention. You can't use the money unless it was backed by the gold given up by the people. Ladies and gentlemen, the money is backed by gold. Pay attention. The gold is given up by the people in the present crisis should be delivered to the government. It should be used. The gold should be used to issue additional money upon which the people will not have to pay a single bit of interest while it's in circulation. The money is, of course, backed by gold. Just got to read, everybody. It's all right there. You just have to understand what they're doing. I want to read one more paragraph. Those of us who have worked for 3 years trying to get the currency expanded have the consolation of knowing that our plans have been adopted. I do not believe that the expansion is being made in a manner that will permit the most good. However, the same kind of money is being issued that we have advocated should be issued. It is sound money, although not as well secured as the money we propose to issue. Ladies and gentlemen, So we understand the intent of Congress. That's it. That's all you're interested in reading is what was their intent. Okay? So when I say you can discharge your debts, let me show you how. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been paying all these bills all these years. If you've been paying a particular company, a particular bank, anybody, send them a copy of the information, letting them know that they were supposed to go to the Treasury. No, you can't prove they were supposed to go to the Treasury. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're right about here. That's 75. And this should be 70, this should be 78. Yeah, that's 78. See, how did you know? Because I was guessing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just so that you could know that they were supposed to give it to the Treasury, we have provided that any direct obligation of the United States or any notes, any drafts, any bill of exchange, any banker's acceptance acquired by Federal Reserve banks may be deposited with the Treasury of the United States. Now we don't want to worry about Federal Reserve agents. And upon these securities, Federal Reserve banknotes must be issued. Not may be issued. They have to because they're securities. There has to be an exchange. And in case of deposits of obligations of the United States, the issue of Federal Reserve banknotes may be for the entire amount of such securities. Well, your drafts are securities of the United States. They already said they were obligations. And they've already, pay attention, these securities. Okay, upon these securities. These are securities, they're government obligations, they're obligations of the United States, they're United States government securities, even though they're going to say, well, no, because they differentiated. No, later they say that these are government obligations. So that makes them government securities because they are securities, which makes them government securities. Catch 22. It is the language of the act. Now pay attention up here. In the case of the deposit of notes, bills of exchange, and bankers' acceptances, Federal Reserve banks may issue Federal Reserve bank notes for the amount of 90% of the value of the securities. Now pay attention, still securities, but they'll say that you need to have money in an account with your securities. Let's make sure you know where your money in the account is. I think we should have, that's what I kind of figured. Let me tell you what your securities are, ladies and gentlemen. You ready to find out what your securities are? Nope, didn't mean to do that. Your securities are your homes and your property. That's what your securities are because they've been mortgaged. Those are your securities. So your securities are your bills of exchange because they're backed by the mortgage of your homes. The same as the money is backed by a mortgage on your property. That's why the two of you get to use the money and the bill of exchange. The banks get to use the money, you get to use the bill of exchange. Why? Because the United States government has stored surety as both. That's why the Treasury issues the bills of exchange. Pay attention. I mean, not bills of exchange, the money to the banks. That's why the Treasury issues the money to the bank, and that's why the Treasury accepts your bill of exchange, your banknotes. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you want to do, if you don't believe me, don't believe me. What you want to do is you want to call the Treasury. Give me a second. I think I went too short. Let's find out what page this is. Yeah, I went way too far. I need to go to 79. This is going to be about 76. I'm pretty certain. Let's see. 77. I was just, oh, you know what? And I want to promise you guys something. Not even subconsciously. I'm not looking up here because this doesn't tell me the page number. So just want to make sure. I'm just letting you know that I'm literally guessing, not counting, just guessing. All right. Make sure y'all know something right here so that y'all get it. These are government securities. They are sent to the Treasury. Contact the Treasury and ask them what is their policy in compliance with this section right here of the Congressional Act. Where are the procedures for you sending your government security, your government obligation to the Treasury to take care of your outstanding obligation. Okay? Then call the Federal Reserve Bank and ask them what their policy is to conform to this. It is page 79, ladies and gentlemen, page 79 of the Congressional record. This will be underneath the video. Now we got one more thing to talk about. I do need to read this to y'all because it's that important. This is only 6 pages, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell y'all what this is. This is going to be under there. This is public law. Okay? This is a joint resolution. We don't want the one on the armed forces. I want to read you one in particular. Let's see. I was supposed to, no, I'm going to put y'all on pause so I can find it because I got to find it again. I done moved it. Hold on. I'm sorry, you guys are going to love this. I can't really talk about this. This is not why I'm doing this video, but I did have this thing pulled up. This is again, a public law. Any joint resolution, because all joint resolutions are public law, or bill introduced pursuant to Section 5B at least 30 calendar days before the expiration of the 60-day period specified in such section shall be referred to committee. Okay, let's do the Section 5B. I do know that that's talking about the Trading with the Enemy Act, but I can't say it without pulling it up. So I cannot find that section just real quick, but I've already shown you guys, and this definitely has to be referring to the Trading with the Enemy Act because guess what? Armed forces, the president, every possible issuance, consult the Congress, and blah, blah, blah. Now let's find out, when was this junk written? This was 1973, ladies and gentlemen. This is the war powers of Congress and the president. This is the joint resolution concerning those war powers. Public law. They came up with rules as to how the so-called joint resolutions were to be introduced, how they were to be handled, and how they were to be interpreted. This is 19. Now be careful, because we were talking about a joint resolution of June 6th. They're gonna wonder. Sorry, this is sometimes I wonder. This is my Darius Rucker and Jill Scott, originally done by a young man named Anthony Davis, and a couple other people have done this song. But anyway, let me get back to this, ladies and gentlemen. Interpretation of a joint resolution. What they'll tell you is when you go back to the joint resolution of 1933, they will say HJR 192 can be interpreted under these rules. No, they have to be interpreted under rules at the time, not these current rules. So be careful of that. Okay? Whew. All right, now we're going to minimize all this because we got to talk. Don't know what this junk is, but I have a bunch of pictures. This looks like an upside down skull. Like, you know, these are the eyes and this is the mouth down here, but this is actually the mouth right here. And I have no idea where this picture is from, but apparently some artist has put it on there with HD wallpapers. Oh well, let's talk. I didn't know we had gone over an hour. That's why I'm rushing, because I wasn't trying to do no hour-long video. Ladies and gentlemen, when you understand money, and you go back and look at HJR 192, it says dollar for dollar. Then when you go to the website, pay attention, AmeriLegion.com. When you go to AmeriLegion.com, you will see all of the information telling you about money and how money is considered in the United States, how it's dollar for dollar, how the Supreme Court has said that the law has not made the note a standard of value more than the coin. There is no such thing as a penny. They're all dollars. There's no such thing as a dime. There's no such thing as a quarter. There's no such thing as a nickel. Equal value for every dollar. Equal power for every dollar. Go back and look at HJR 192. You'll see that they are talking about the equalization, the same value, the uniformity, so that they're all equal. There is no such thing as a penny. Do yourself a favor, ladies and gentlemen. Go and take a dollar bill. Take that information showing you that a dollar is equal, dollar for dollar, and write the Treasury. Give them a dollar and tell them you need them to credit the account of the bank Give them that dollar, tell them the value of this dollar will be the value of the promissory note. Say you are sending this to the bank as a bill of exchange to take care of the promissory note. Tell them under 12 USC subsection 411 that you are allowed to tender that to the Treasury and ask that they credit the account of the financial institution. And if that account has already been credited, then you need them to credit your account because you have never received the credit for that. Okay, all you have to do, I'm going to say it again, is recognize that the law recognizes dollar for dollar. I say send a dollar bill and not a penny, but there is nothing in the law that says that you cannot exchange a penny for a $100 bill or a $1 billion bill because they're all equal in value. That's why we have on the website Butler versus Thompson, or Thompson versus Butler. Ladies and gentlemen, where are we? AmeriLegion. This is the POA. I don't want the POA. I want AmeriLegion. So let's do Amera. AMARALEG. ION. It ain't there yet. They ain't got it yet. So I'm gonna have to do what I do to get it to pop up all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court case is this case right here at the very bottom of this line right there. The Supreme Court has said the coin dollar is worth no more for the purpose of the payment of an ordinary debt than a note dollar. The law has not made the note a standard of value more than the coin. Do me a favor, ladies and gentlemen. I can't copy and paste it. I have to go here and I have to go down to the session. Oh, when you go here, when you click on the link, you have to go here. Okay, you have to click on case. It's going to be this paragraph right here. Okay, and we want to take this right here. Hold on. The law has not made the note a standard of value more than the coin. Now, I know that that was the law back then. Hold on, got to do something.